Coming up here on Philadelphia Eagles Now, Chase Senior hanging out here with you. In the lead up to this Eagles-Broncos game, really good matchup coming up on Sunday. I'm going to give you my keys to the game, top matchups to watch, what the Eagles must do to win, and of course, lastly, my prediction. Key to the game number one for me for this Eagles defense is stopping the Broncos' run game. And with the Eagles' rushing defense, they've been a little bit leaky to start the year. And they haven't been as buttoned up and tidied as they were last year when they were fantastic in stopping the run. And this Broncos rushing offense paired with this terrific Broncos offensive line has really been the backbone for this Broncos offense to start the year because Bo Nix has played just okay. Their rush play percentage, 44.6%, 10th in the NFL. They're averaging 5.1 yards per carry, number 5 in the league. Their rushes per game, 28.3, that ranks number 9. Their rushing yards per game, 143.3, very impressive. That comes in at number 5. And they're finding the end zone on a per-game basis for touchdowns, 1.3. That's number 6 in the NFL. And they signed J.K. Dobbins pretty late this offseason. I've always liked the player. I liked him coming out of Ohio State. He had some Achilles problems, a lot of injury issues throughout his career. He's having a really good season, and last year I thought he played very well as well for the Los Angeles Chargers. 57 carries, 323 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a long of 41. He's been that steady back. And then the Broncos in the draft really liked R.J. Harvey. In the preseason, he was getting a lot of buzz, and he can really pack a punch at 5'8", 205. He's been a good complement to J.K. Dobbins. 27 carries for $138 and a long of 50, so he's very explosive. I like this game at UCF. The Broncos did as well. That's why they took him in the second round. He looks to be a really good player, but how both backs complement one another has impressed me so far this year behind an offensive line that I don't think gets enough credit for being one of the best offensive lines in football. That was the case last year because it's Denver and it's not really the sexiest media market, and they haven't had a ton of success ever since Peyton Manning left. There was that long playoff drought until they made the playoffs last year. A lot of people don't realize just how good this team is. Sean Payton's done a good job of really turning this organization around. Garrett Bowles, really good left tackle. You have Ben Powers at left guard, Luke Wattenberg at center, Quinn Minor's a dog at right guard, and then Mike McGlinchey at right tackle, kind of just an average player, but he's very athletic, a good run blocker in space. And for the Eagles here, why it's so important to stop the run. If you stop the run and you're able to take an early lead and force Bo Nix into a position where he has to play catch up and he has to throw it a lot and air it out, the Broncos become one-dimensional. And I like the Eagles' chances of winning the game if that happens. If Bo Nix has to drop back a lot and throw it, he is prone to turning the ball over. He has 4 interceptions so far this year. But if the Broncos are balanced and they're able to run the football successfully, move the chains, win time of possession, keep that Eagles offense, which is trying to find a rhythm on the sideline, it keeps the Eagles offense from finding that rhythm. And so that's a really important key in this game. Nix has thrown for 861 yards so far this year, completing just under 66% of his passes. He's thrown those 7 touchdowns to 4 picks. Key to the game number 2. This Eagles offense needs to catch a rhythm, and they need to find an identity. Now, I'm not hitting the panic button yet. I'm going to give Kevin Patullo some time. This is his first time ever calling plays at the NFL level, and the Eagles have had a very difficult schedule to start, and they've gone up against some really good defensive minds, and they've gone up against some really good defenses. But this Eagles offense needs to be more consistent, and they don't have that aforementioned identity. Are they a running team? Are they a throwing team? We have no idea. And a big reason why there's that big question mark is because the Eagles haven't been able to put together a full 60-minute game where they play sound offensive football for a full 4 quarters. I mean, the first half against the Cowboys, it was great. The Eagles had 3 first-half drives, and they scored touchdowns on those 3 drives. Now, A.J. Brown only had 1 target for 1 catch in that game, but Jalen Hurts was phenomenal, especially with his legs. Against the Chiefs, Steve Spagnuolo blitzed Jalen Hurts more than 60% of the time. Highest blitz rate since he became the Chiefs' defensive coordinator. And they sent the house at Philadelphia. And it's hard to generate explosives when that happens. It's hard to run the football against a loaded box. What did the Eagles do, though? They did make clutch plays late with the long ball from Hurts to Devontae Smith, being able to move the chains in critical spots, and that was awesome. But the full sample size in that game, undesirable, right? Second half against the Rams, after an awful first half, it was great. Hurts looked like an MVP. A.J. Brown went off for more than 100 yards and a touchdown. The pass game got going. Saquon Barkley got going a little bit. But that first half was as ugly as it gets. The first half against the Bucs, a great half, a great first 30 minutes where we saw some new wrinkles. We saw some creativity. The pitch play to Goddard when it was quads right, that play has been in the Eagles playbook for the last 4 or 5 years. The Eagles debut that. The shovel pass, just a great design, letting the block set up. A little bit later in the game, the tush-push trickery. That was in the second half. That was awesome. But Jalen Hurts did not complete a pass in the second half of that game. Now, was that because he suffered a concussion and didn't come out of the game? I mentioned it during the watch party. He got up a little bit wobbly. He didn't go to the blue tent. And after that point, didn't complete a pass. Wasn't the same guy. Who knows? But the point here being, the Eagles were not good in the second half of that game. The inverse with what happened against the Rams. And this needs to get fixed. This isn't a sustainable way to play championship-level football. The Eagles are the first team in NFL history to start 4-0 despite averaging 4.2 yards per play or worse and less than 260 yards of offense per game. And this Eagles offense, when they're bad, they're really bad. When they're clicking, they look awesome. And I think the frustrations from all of us and A.J. Brown, they are valid. This is not an offensive formula that can win a Super Bowl. But there is time to figure it out, and there's the talent to figure it out. And if the Eagles offense can figure it out this week, I think that's pretty impressive. This is going to be a tough test and a tall test. This Broncos defense is legit. It's one of the best units in the NFL. And if this Eagles offense performs well against the likes of this Broncos defense, you have to give them credit. Now, here's where the Eagles stack up on both sides of the pill. 7th in points per game on offense, but 30th in yards per game, 30th in yards per play. But they are 8th on third downs. Number 1 in the red zone. 11 red zone trips, 11 touchdowns for the Eagles. On defense, 15th in points per game, 22nd in yards per game, 18th in yards per play. I think the eye test tells us they've been better than that. They're 14th on third downs, but great at limiting touchdowns in the red zone. Number 3, red zone touchdown scoring percentage. The Broncos having some similar issues on offense. 16th in points per game, but they're moving it. 9th in yards per game, 10th in yards per play, but 16th on third downs. Top 10 red zone offense, though. Defensively, stellar. Really good with their defensive line and in the secondary. Number 2 in points per game. Number 10 in yards per game defensively. 8th in yards per play. 4th on third downs. And how about this, folks? They've only given up touchdowns 25% of the time in the red zone. Number 1 red zone defense in the NFL. So you have the number 1 red zone offense against the number 1 red zone defense. What a great matchup to watch on Sunday. Key to the game number 3. If there is a weakness for this Broncos defense, it is their linebacking core. They made a big offseason addition, adding Dre Greenlaw, but he's on injured reserve because he can't get that quad right. And the Broncos' best linebacker, I would say, or at least the most productive, is Alex Singleton, who used to play for the Eagles and wasn't really a starting caliber player with Philadelphia. He's actually ended up having a pretty good career with Denver. He had 11 tackles on Monday Night Football. But in the pass game, he's not really a great coverage linebacker. He blitzed a lot against Cincinnati on Monday, but he doesn't really hold up well in coverage. And so this Broncos linebacking core is susceptible to getting exposed, especially without Dre Greenlaw here. And so what I want Kevin Patullo and this Eagles offense to do is to attack that middle area of the field in between the numbers and in between the hashes. How do you do that? You utilize your tight end in Dallas Goedert. 3 touchdowns in the last 2 games. You run a lot of shallow crosses and shoot. You can run some deep crosses as well. We saw Hurts layer some nice balls to the middle intermediate area of the field. You run some in-breaking routes. A.J. Brown is so good at those. That's a way for him to get involved. And then Saquon Barkley has this talent, but he's so good as a runner, and he does drop some passes that sometimes he's not utilized in this manner. But utilize Saquon as a receiver. You get him matched up against one of these Broncos linebackers, I'm taking Saquon. So you run some wheel routes, you run some delayed screens, you run some in-breakers where he fakes as a blocker, cuts it inside. That's how you attack the Broncos linebacking core. Key to the game number 4, this is something that kind of coincides, right? You get the pass game going, it gets the run game going. You get the ground game going, it gets the pass game open. And it really opens things up in that regard. These are really the big issues on offense right now. It's that the offensive line is missing some blocks. The wide receiver blocking, especially with A.J. Brown, has been great. The execution just hasn't been pinpoint. And Jordan Mailata said this after the game. We're a missed block here or there from having a lot of explosive plays. I also don't love how the Eagles have run into a lot of loaded boxes. But on offense specifically, they're just not really playing complementary football. The pass game is not helping out the run game. The run game is not helping out the pass game. And because of that, Saquon Barkley's rushing yards every game have actually gone down from week 1, and he's not having a 2025 like he had in 2024. Part of that is because of how defenses are attacking and defending the Eagles. They're not letting Saquon beat them. And because of that, he hasn't had a great year. 77 carries for only 237 yards. I don't think that's because he's lost it after leading the NFL in touches last year, having more than 2,000 yards. He looks great. He looks explosive. He looks fast and physical. He hasn't lost a step. It's because of how defenses are defending the Eagles, and their offensive line hasn't been that great. And the pass game has been inconsistent. And so this has kind of been a snowball effect for Philadelphia to start the year. And this offensive line must improve. This is the backbone of this offense. And Jeff Stoutland's unit is highly paid. They have a lot of great players. But outside of Jordan Mailata, the rest of the unit hasn't played great. Lane Johnson's been very good, but he's been in and out of the lineup. And Landon Dickerson has been really, really bad. Mostly, though, it's been the missed assignments that are happening so often that has led to a lack of explosive plays. Can't happen against Denver. Can't happen consistently. Otherwise, this Eagles offense will continue to be a maddening unit. And then key to the game number 5. Got to feed A.J. Brown, and you have to scheme him open. And it's not necessarily for a lack of targets this season. You look at his targets. Now, in week 1 against the Cowboys, I don't know how he gets targeted one time, but against the Chiefs, targeted 8 times. Week 3, targeted 10 times. Against the Bucs, targeted 9 times. But the routes have been predictable. The play calling has been vanilla and predictable at times. The Eagles have lacked aggressiveness in the pass game. And defenses, because of that, have found this Eagles offense and A.J. Brown easy to defend. And so you have to dive into your creativity to try to generate explosive plays, to just find ways for A.J. Brown to find success, get the ball in his hands so that he can make an impact, because he feels as though he hasn't been able to make an impact. And offensive balance obviously can help that out a lot as well. Going to be a really good matchup between A.J. Brown and Patrick Surtain, the 2024 Defensive Player of the Year. This is one of the top matchups across the entire NFL. You have elite against elite. And you just don't want A.J. Brown to blow up on the sideline. Not a good look, and obviously adds more drama to a team that so far is 4-0. Keep him happy, feed him, but get creative with how to get him involved against one of the top defenses in the NFL. Find your balance, and if you do that, you become really difficult to defend as an offense, and in turn, less predictable with what you want to do. All right, predict the score. Broncos, Eagles. This is a fantastic matchup once again here in week 4, as this Eagles schedule every single week has given us really good games. My prediction, there's no way that the Eagles should lose this game. They're at home. They're the better team. The Broncos are good, but they're not ready to be on the level of the Eagles. The Birds also have the rest advantage and the body clock advantage. We've seen moments where this team is starting to round into form. It all comes down to doing it more consistently and doing it over the span of 60 minutes. Give me the Birds 28-22. They move to 5-0.